Hello and welcome to Hot Takes on the Classics. Before we begin today's show, we ask that you go and like us on the podcast platform of your choice. Just press pause right now. Go like us on the podcast platform that you're listening on. We will especially really love it if you write us a glowing review. Those are our requests. And now on with our second season of Hot Takes on the Classics, a season on love. This year, we're talking about the 4 types of love. Today's episode on Antigone is about that first type of love, Storge. English translation would maybe be something like affection. This is about familial or parental love, the foundation of the other types of love. Die I must. I've known it all my life. How could I keep from knowing? Even without your death sentence ringing in my ears. And if I am to die before my time, I consider that a gain. Who on earth alive, in the midst of so much grief as I, could fail to find his death a rich reward? But if I had allowed my own mother's son to rot, an unburied corpse, that would have been an agony. Welcome to Hot Takes on the Classics. My name is Tim McIntosh, and I am joined by Emily Maeda for our second season on love. Emily, Antigone. We were talking about Antigone today.
I kind of arm wrestled you for Antigone because I know you love Antigone.
We both love this place so much. We love it so much.
And you were the first one to teach my daughter Antigone, so we share that also. Do you remember that? Many years ago.
I do remember that. I even remember, I think she had some T-shirts printed, didn't she?
She sure did. Her friend printed her a T-shirt which read, Antigone is bae, B-A-E. It's so funny. I was just repeating that and thinking about how quickly slang moves because Does anybody remember
Nobody says
when
bae anymore.
Was a thing?
Yeah.
I don't think they do. But it
was
meant,
it like 7 years ago? It was everywhere.
I know. Just goes to show how. Go ahead.
It was an acronym for BAE, best always ever, or something like that. I've already forgotten.
I
think so.
I thought it was short for baby or something.
I don't think so.
Awesome.
I think it was an acronym.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's how quickly. That is why we need the classics, because the classics stand the test of time, and they're not. But, here it is attached to a very passing pop culture word. But yeah, anyway, we love Antigone. Antigone is awesome. Okay, I have a question to start us out.
Okay.
If you were going, this is sort of a dumb question because I already think I know how you're going to answer it, but I'm still going to ask it. It's partially for myself. If you could go back in time to see any theatrical performance, what would it be?
Oh, goodness.
I know your answer. Yeah,
you probably do. I think it would be Richard Burbage playing Hamlet.
Oh, that wasn't what I was going to say.
Oh, it wasn't?
Okay. No. That you were going to say you wanted to go back and see Shakespeare with his fellow performers at the Globe.
Well, no, that's Richard Burbage.
Oh, is that Burbage? Sorry.
Yeah.
Who am I thinking? Who's the other great Shakespearean actor from this century? Oh,
you're thinking of Richard, the Welsh actor who played Hamlet. Richard,
yes.
Who's married to Elizabeth Taylor, who was great, who was absolutely great.
Richard Burton. Come on, Richard Burton. With a B.
Yeah.
With a B.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, sorry. Yes. Okay, you fulfilled. I do have to say that because Greek theater is so different from anything we probably experience now, even when people try to recreate it, I feel like I would like to go back and see Sophocles' performance. I think even more than Shakespeare.
Really?
How do you feel about that?
I feel really great about that. It's so Emily, maybe you know this, but this is one of the things. So Greek theater it belongs in one of these pockets of history where there is an output of incredible artistry and excellence in that art.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pocket that belongs alongside maybe the Russian novelists of the mid 1800s.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe along Elizabethan stage acting. I would bet that pockets of production like that from the classical music world?
Yeah, exactly.
Are there pockets like that?
Here Bach, Handel, and Scarlatti were all born in the same year, which just is like,
oh, goodness.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do they all get, you know what I mean? Why are they all working at the same time? Like this brilliance just comes. Yeah, I do think that it's that way. Or like Vienna in the early 1800s. There are these pockets, right? Beethoven, Mozart, Haydn are all composing at the same time. It is really fascinating, isn't it?
It is. It's really fascinating. And I think you could kind of make a case that there are certain historical factors that
yes,
equip people.
That allow for
but it's also more than that. It's also just kind of it's just remarkable that Euripides and Sophocles and Aeschylus and Aristophanes are all born in relatively the same time period. And we're still reading their stuff 2,500 years later.
Still reading it. The golden age of Greece. I mean, and that's not just the playwrights. It's also Aristotle and Plato, right? I mean, it is a golden age. It's just remarkable. I said that to you while we were discussing this before recording, that reading it again, it just is such an amazing gift to receive it, because these words written 2,500 years ago, they still feel just as present, even though there's all of these things that separate us from it, but still the things that they're talking about, because they're talking about timeless human qualities, right? Like love. And that this play really is about the conflict between different loves and how that they can force our hand into what we think about them. It's something I actually think that we'll probably see time and time again in everything that we read, that there aren't easy divisions between the loves. You know, we read and discussed C.S. Lewis's 4 Loves, but they don't stay in nice, neat divisions. They bleed into each other. So while we're talking about love of family here and affection for the family, there's still philia involved. There's even eros involved between the character Antigone and Haman as well. So I think we're going to see that in a much different way than war is of less nuance than love, would you say?
Right. There's something also about these different types of love. Like there's going to be lots of overlap these seasons between these different types of love. I also think Greek tragedy has a unique capacity to put rival loves in conflict with each other. And I think this is so important. And I think the ancient Greeks or the classical Greeks recognized also how important it was. They recognized it so much that they would put in the theater, the front rows would be reserved for the future rulers of the city. In this case, it would have been young aristocratic men. They would have had the prime spots because the idea was, if you're going to be a lawgiver, a lawmaker, a ruler of a city, then you have to learn really quickly how to adjudicate between rival loves or rival allegiances.
Exactly. I was thinking about how this is also preserved. I just got finished teaching Lincoln Douglas debate, and that really is what Lincoln Douglas debate is about a competition between different values. Which value is to be valued higher than the other? And you see that this is the playing out of wisdom within the city, within the state, within our body politic. So it is really great. Tragedy does such an amazing job of this too. Did we discuss tragedy last year? And we did. Did we do Richard? We did Richard III last year in War. No, we did Henry V. We did Henry V. Sorry, we did Henry V, which was a history. So we didn't discuss tragedy, but tragedy is its own thing. But we discussed tragedy on one of our shows, Tim. What was it? Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
We have to look at the lineup.
How can we forget this so quickly? But this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy which carries its own ethos and predictable lines. The shorthand for tragedy is what is your shorthand for tragedy?
Oh.
Do you have a shorthand for tragedy? When you explained it really simplistically?
I would say it is a story in which the hero, dies.
Okay, that's way too complex.
Really?
Here's my shorthand for tragedy. Everybody dies. That's the shorthand for tragedy. You were making it way too complex.
Yeah, I was trying to tie together like a tragedy like Hamlet along with a tragedy like Antigone.
Like, no. Basically, in tragedy, everybody dies, right? And in comedy, everybody gets married. Like, those are the shorthands, which are way too simplistic for a full rendering. But that's simplistically what happens. So knowing that, you can already have an idea of the end of Antigone. But that is a reduction of what actually happens, because tragedy, I was reading a fabulous essay on Antigone, and he says it's anagnoresis, that's the Greek word, but it's misrecognition. And tragedy is always laying bare what has been misrecognized. Often it's yourself, but often it's also the other that you maybe have not seen clearly. So I think hold that in your mind as we talk about Antigone. So
misrecognition.
Isn't that good?
That is really good.
Okay, so let's see how it plays out. The nice thing about Antigone is, unlike some War and Peace, for instance, Antigone can be told relatively quickly.
Right.
The plot doesn't take us a long time, but we should
get like
maybe
5 characters.
Yeah.
And a chorus. That's
simpler.
What you got.
And it happens within a specific time frame. So it's also, buffeted by time on either end. But Antigone was written by Sophocles, the great Greek playwright, in 442 BC. It's the third in the 3 Theban plays, and we usually refer to it as the Oedipus cycle, and it's so depressing. Oedipus, so depressing. Oedipus is given a prophecy that he will kill his father and marry his mother, so he is sent out of the kingdom, but lo and behold, he kills his father and marries his mother. And when it's revealed to him, he takes out his eyes, and his mother kills herself, and his children, are left with the reality that their parents are also, their father is also their sibling.
Right. Yeah.
Awful. So
and
that's
now
Antigone.
Their father
Guess
is
what? That's Antigone.
Their father is now a wandering blind beggar, like throughout his own kingdom.
To atone for his sin.
Right. It's dreadful. Emily, I don't want to camp too long on this, but maybe this might contribute a little bit to Antigone. One of the things that's hardest to understand from like a modern point of view about Oedipus Rex is that Oedipus doesn't consciously do anything wrong.
Exactly.
But still,
he doesn't want to do it.
He doesn't want to do it. But he makes a mistake both in marrying his mother and in killing his father. They're based on misunderstandings. But what's really interesting is that he is still kind of held accountable by the gods for these errors. And I think so our modern conception of sin, which is shaped so deeply by the Christian tradition, is volition, like willing volition is crucial to being held accountable. So we make a sharp distinction between, let's say, manslaughter and murder, because manslaughter,
premeditated.
It's right. Murder is premeditated. Manslaughter, it'd be, I made an error. It was a lapse in judgment, but it was not a conscientious effort toward taking the life of another person. But in the days that we're talking about in classical Greece, that's a distinction that is kind of blurred. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's a little blurred.
Exactly, because there's a sense that there's been a defilement, and defilement is defilement. It doesn't matter how it happened.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to make atonement for that defilement no matter what. That is actually really important to the story of Antigone. That is actually really important, because there are these unbending dictates of the gods, and it doesn't matter the reason why you're doing it, which is very important for what Antigone says. So I think that was a great segue. But also another thing from Oedipus that he sort of shows this distinctly, and we see it in later tragedies like Lear, for instance, he only sees once he is blind.
Right? Yep.
And that is that's that misrecognition, but that's a deep theme that runs through all of tragedy. And I think, I was thinking about that so much. Shakespeare's indebted to the Greek playwrights, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He is.
I mean, these characters you see and preoccupations that show up all through Western artistic output, which is just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into the plot and then we can see how all of these things come together. So the play opens right before dawn. Antigone has grabbed her sister Ismene and they are talking quietly outside the palace. And Antigone comes to her sister and says, look, our brothers, Eteocles and Polynices, are both dead, and they've died at each other's hands because Polynices has sided with Thebes' enemies and come against the city, and he and Eteocles have killed themselves or killed each other. So terrible, to add to the great tragedy that they've already faced with the incest and suicide of their parents. Antigone right away tells Ismene, look, our uncle Creon, who is now the ruler because both of our brothers have died, he says, our brother Polynices shall not be buried. And Antigone says, absolutely not. I will bury him. I don't care if he kills me. I don't care what he does. Love of the family overrides his betrayal of the city. I will bury my brother.
Can I ask you a question about this?
Yes.
Is Antigone's motivation just love for her brother, the desire to honor her brother's memory? Or is there also a kind of cultural element here about like not letting the body of one's family like remain in the sun? You know what I mean? Like today we bury our dead, even on the battlefield, even our enemies, we try to bury, our dead enemies because it would be such a violation of honor to let their bodies rot in the sun after their death. I would assume in Greek culture, there's a very strong impetus to not let the body rot after death, but maybe I've imported that from my own day. Do you know?
No, of course. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? That's the whole thing. I mean, I actually think it's something that's a little bit hard for us to understand. I mean, we're going to do the Odyssey coming up here soon. Remember Odysseus's friend, who I'm going to forget his name, who comes back from the dead and says, nobody buried me. Who is the friend? Why can't I remember him?
Right. Yeah. I can't remember either off the top of my head.
Anyway,
but
everybody's
it's awful.
shouting
It's
at
awful.
us.
He's like a ghost that can't find
doomed
rest.
to wander because you have not done what is needed. So I think that this is actually a little bit hard for us, the way we take funerals so blithely. Like, what's the big deal if he's not buried? Who cares? Like, no, this is a deep betrayal. It's not only unkind to Polynices, it's a defilement of what the gods have ordered, right?
Yeah.
She says, but the body of Polynices, who died miserably, why a citywide proclamation, rumor has it, forbids anyone to bury him, even mourn him. He's to be left unwept, unburied, a lovely treasure for birds that scan the field and feast to their heart's content. And she said, that's gross, right? Whoever disobeys in the least will die. He is doomed, sealed, stoning to death inside the city walls. And she says, I absolutely will suffer this. She says later, I will lie with the one I love and loved by him, an outrage sacred to the gods. She says this is sacred to the gods, what she's willing to do. I have longer to please the dead than please the living here. In the kingdom down below, I'll lie forever. Do as you like. Dishonor the laws the gods hold in honor. So she's saying this to her sister because her sister says, we can't disobey Creon. But essentially, she says, there's a higher law. I'm obeying the higher law. Creon is wrong here. Our uncle Creon is wrong. He does wrong to the gods to let his body be defiled. Even if Polynices was a betrayer, even if he was a traitor, that doesn't remove the need for him to be buried. He is still the son of a king. So
this is a kind of amazing conflict.
It is.
The law of the land is the king's word. That is the law of the land. And to make your case that I will do right by following this higher law, I assume the word is logos. I assume, I haven't read Antigone in the Greek, but I would assume that when she refers to the higher law, it's logos. And to say that there is something above the king, because usually in a lot of ancient worlds, the voice of the king is the voice of God.
The same, right, is synonymous with God.
And the Greeks, and of course the Hebrews, they're coming along saying, actually, hold up, everybody, hold up. And I think there's a reason why these two, what a huge kind of moment to put on display in theater.
It really is a huge moment. And it's also part of the reason that when a modern person reads Antigone, I didn't read you all of the quotes from Hegel, Virginia Woolf. I mean, she's a darling to many people because we resonate with what she's saying, right? We resonate with that. Like, truth to power. This is truth to power. We're going to talk to you, Creon. I'm going to hold you accountable. So, I mean, it's a very modern sentiment that she sort of holds. I mean, she's held up as a feminist icon, right? She's a feminist icon because she is willing to go against the dictates of the king and suffer whatever he will give to her. So the scene moves and we actually get this amazing contemplation by the chorus. And the chorus is such a great thing in Greek tragedy, right? It's like the two old guys in the Muppets who would give the commentary on the performances.
Yes, right. That's exactly right. I was thinking about it beforehand. Like when I first started reading Greek tragedy, like in high school, I assume, I had such a hard time understanding, like, okay, who's the chorus? They're kind of positioned as narrator, but they have this definite point of view. I think they're kind of like your grandfather. They're like the older guys in the Muppets. They're kind of
they're perfect.
Your grandfather, but they're also historians, you know, like they supply history to the story. They supply like tradition. They're kind of also the voice, the conscience of the community in some way. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like if your grandfather and a bunch of his friends that sit around at the coffee shop and they collect, you know, Trojan War memorabilia and they're kind of strict, that's the chorus. That's the chorus.
So the chorus comes in after this first scene and gives this great meditation on sort of the wonders of men and that, you know, men can do these different things and they list these different things that men can do, but also it's a strange power, right? So men can do things, but the doing of things often gets men into trouble, right? So both it's our glory and our dishonor. And we're left with that. It kind of reminds me of, this discourse reminds me a bit of in Proverbs where it says there's 3 things that are wonderful, 4 that are too high to speak of, right? And it lists like a man with a maiden, the eagle upon the rock. It's that sort of a feeling because they're giving examples from history. They're giving examples from nature that talk about sort of the wonder of men, but also like their tragic flaw, right? Enter Creon. So Creon comes in, he says, here is why this is wrong. Like, how in the world can we bury a traitor? If we bury the traitor, the city will come undone. And it's a very real concern. I mean, his concern for the city is legitimate. He says, remember this, our country is our safety. Only while she voyages true on course can we establish friendships truer than blood itself. Such are my standards. They make our city great. So these are my principles. Traitors will not be honored above the patriot. Fair. It's a
totally fair. Totally fair.
And he says, if we do this, we're going to destroy the city. So basically he's saying, I can't treat my nephew. My nephew is a traitor. Traitor exempts the nephew, right? I can't do the familial duty because I too have a higher duty. And that duty is to the citizens of Thebes.
This is why.
Here's the problem.
This is why the Greek tragedians are so good, is because the the bad guys, in this case Creon, are so forceful and powerful. They're not straw men, they're steel men. And to overcome Creon's reasoning, you've got to have your argument tight, and you've got to be willing to suffer the consequences. Because Creon is not only like the king, not only a great warrior, but he's also got like this really sharp legal mind.
Yeah. And that devotion that he's calling for towards the city or the polis, you could say is in some ways more honorable, because it transcends mere tribal affiliation, right? He's trying to say, look, this has to be for the good of all. We can't allow this. And if I allow this here, what does that say everywhere else? So there's the clash. A sentry. I love the sentry too, because I feel that the sentry in Antigone is a bit like the comic relief that we get in Shakespeare.
Oh,
he comes and he's like, well, geez, I don't really want to bring you bad news, but somebody's got to tell you. And then he tells him, and Creon's very angry. He's like, please don't hurt me. It wasn't my fault. I'm just telling you what happened. I'm never coming back because I know you're going to kill me if you ever see me again.
Yeah.
And the terrible news is his body has been buried. It hasn't been buried fully, but dirt has been poured on top of him. So obviously somebody is thwarting Creon. And he says, you better find whoever's doing this or else you're going to die. And the sentry runs out like, I'm gone. But
never to come back.
Not really, because he does show up just a little bit further down, and he has Antigone with him. So Antigone has been caught, and she has been taken to Creon, and she refuses to back down. She will not back down, and she calls Creon out. She says, "You are doing something that is wrong. I am following the dictates of the gods. I will die. I will die this death by stoning." And she says, I will win glory. We talked about glory in the Iliad. I'm sure we're going to talk about glory in the Odyssey. Here she claims it for herself, which is also unusual. She says, I will win glory when the citizens stone me, because basically my death will show up what a bad law this was,
Yeah.
So Creon actually steals that glory from her, because he says, yes, you will die, but you will not die with the glory you want. You will die walled up inside a house.
Yeah.
You will die a slow death of hunger. And so Antigone is thwarted from, sort of seeing the nobility of her act. So she is sent out to be walled up inside a house. But there's kind of only one small problem with this, and it's a real problem. Her groom to be, her fiance, is Haman, the son of Creon. So Haman is such a fascinating character. He comes to his father, and he comes to him dutifully and placating. He says, I will not, go against you, but have you considered this?
Yeah.
And he tries to sort of say, hey, I think you've maybe been too strong with Antigone. I think you should maybe come back, because you are blinded by this duty to the city, but maybe she was really justified. Creon refuses to listen to him, and Haman says, you'll never see me again alive. And then Tiresias comes in, who also, don't you love Tiresias?
I do, and
prophet?
He played a big role in Oedipus Rex also, right?
He sure does, and he's shown up again, and he says, look, I have always led you in the path of truth. I have always spoken truth to you. I am not swayed by money. Nobody has corrupted me. I am telling you, you are blind. And isn't it interesting? The blind prophet is telling this to Creon.
Yeah.
And finally, Creon relents and he says, oh, maybe I was wrong. Shoot, maybe I should walk my pride back a bit. Maybe I should relent. And he runs to Antigone's tomb.
But it is getting late in the game for Creon.
Well, it's too late, because she's dead. And when he shows up to the tomb, Haman is there crying over his fiancée, who he deeply loved. and he turns the sword on his father and lunges at him and misses, and then turns the sword back on himself and kills himself, grasping Antigone. Eurydice, Creon's wife, hears about what has happened to her son Haman, and guess what she does?
I gotta guess.
You already know. Just say, come on, it's just following the thing.
She dies.
Well, yeah, she kills herself.
She kills herself. Because this is the way of all tragedy. This is your simple definition of tragedy. Everybody dies.
I know.
You gave me the footnotes before we started. Hey.
Except Creon. So Creon is left, and he's left with he's left with the city's laws intact, but his entire family gone. So here we get sort of the chiasmic structure. Antigone starts out with a devotion
say what chiastic structure is, because I don't know that we've used that term before.
It's a cross. It's where you have divergent paths that meet in the middle and then end up going, reflecting each other on the other end, right? So I'll show you, I'll say how this is chiastic. Antigone starts out with a devotion to family and a call to love of family, which is higher than political duty, right? And she, in some ways, thinks that she will get a political justification or recognition for this devotion to family, but she actually doesn't. Creon starts out with a devotion to the city, but he ends up empty of family, right? So they sort of mirror each other. And actually, Antigone ends up empty of family as well, because she says, I have died for love of family, but I myself will have no family. Mm-hmm. I'm giving that up in this death. So, dun-dun-dun, what do we come to at the end of this? A lot of the discourse on Antigone sort of focuses on the characters. And this essay that I read that I really loved by this professor at the University of Chicago, Patchen Markle, he says he really thinks that's a misreading, because he says in tragedy, it's always plot that reveals the character, not the character that reveals the plot.
Oh, really?
So he says it's a pretty modern notion, because I think Shakespeare did this for us, right? He turned us into dwellers on character. But Patchen Markle says, no, it's really about the unfolding of the action reveals who these people are. So my youthful reading of Antigone as like an unencumbered self, a woman who speaks her mind and isn't entrapped by others.
Yeah.
Kind of a bad reading.
Yeah. It's an American reading.
It's an American reading. It's a modern reading, right? Because she isn't. That's the whole point. She's not unencumbered.
Yeah.
She's hemmed in by the society she's in, by the people she's interacting with. So I thought that was a great point, and it has informed how I've deepened my understanding of Antigone. But a lot of things come up. So piety, I think that's a big thing. Like the whole fact, don't you think? I mean, you said, yeah, we make sure people are buried on the battlefield. We take that really seriously. But I kind of feel like modern notions of death are pretty laissez-faire. Like, I think it seems sort of strange to a lot of people. Why is she making such a big deal about burying her brother? What's the big deal? Don't you think?
Compared to ours, certainly. I do think they have like a much stronger sense of honor than we do. And I don't just mean honor as a, oh, you acted with integrity, you have honor. I mean a sense of like, my public standing is contingent upon the evaluation of other people around me. That's a more honor-bound society. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to say that we don't care what others think about us. We certainly do. But, 18th, 19th century, if men felt dishonored to a certain point, they would kill. They would
exactly.
have a duel over it. It was we feel dishonored, and it's like a cause of sadness and maybe even depression, but we're not going to take somebody down with a revolver.
Yeah.
Because we've been dishonored. So I do think that this society is much more high honor than we are.
Completely. And that sense of piety, that you have obligations placed upon you, not by your choice, but by the bounds of love and duty, and those obligations you must fulfill. I mean, we talked about this in the Aeneid, right? Because that's kind of the heart of the Aeneid. Like, you have obligations placed upon you, and it doesn't really matter how you feel about them. You need to carry them out.
Yeah.
Which is what Antigone says to her sister at the beginning. And her sister says, hey, we're just women. We shouldn't be inserting ourselves into the world of men, right? We just need to, like, the gods aren't going to hold us to account if we were told not to do it. And Antigone really wants to fight and say, no, we have to do what the gods have said. So that, I mean, we've already talked about it, like these conflicting loves. You know, I think I downplayed the claims of Creon in my youthful readings of this play. What do you think?
Well, you say that again. You downplayed the what of Creon?
Claims. Creon's claims, right? Creon's need
like
for...
when he says, if we let this kind of insurrectionary action stand, then like the whole city could fall, because what really binds us together beyond bloodlines? Yeah. I would bet that a younger me probably underestimated that also, and just was like, Creon, get over it. It's her brother. Get over it, dude. But there's, I mean, like, these kind of questions come up over and over. Like, what is the kind of bond that holds people together that supersedes familial bonds? Like, we all feel this affection toward our family, our extended family, maybe our neighbors also, just because we live near them. We need to practically get along with them. But when you think about a nation, a state, a city, what bond binds us together?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big question. And you don't want your city to fall into kind of like a law and order chaos.
And we can feel dismissive of Creon when we're within a society that has minimized tribal bonds, right?
Yeah,
but if we're living in Appalachia in the 1700s, this is a whole lot more real to us, right?
Very much, right.
Because the claims that go beyond family don't really exist. And you can see what a bad situation that is to be within. So, yeah, I think those conflicting loves, I downplayed Creon's love. And I am grateful to return to this play again and again and to think about how they're both, tragically, they both misrecognize themselves and they both misrecognize the other, right? And that sort of lockstep refusal to countenance another position generally ends in a tragic outcome.
You think that Antigone also misapprehends Creon?
I do.
But would you want her to act differently?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But is there a way in which her, because some of it is like this, they're forcing the other to recognize themselves, and without offering that recognition to the other, there is no bridge that can bring them together, right? So sovereign agency, this author that I was reading, he makes the claim that sovereign agency is a myth. And I think that something for a modern person, we don't really like that. We want to think...
Sovereign agency, meaning like I am in charge of my own fate. What do you mean sovereign agency?
Yeah, I am in charge of my own fate and I will decide what happens. Because he says tragedy always plays out the fact that once we start acting, our actions run before us and we do not have control over their outcomes. And I think that that's a very whole way to think about it. She appeals to me so much because she does seem like she's unencumbered, right? She's asserting her position, her identity, her beliefs. But he writes this professor, I'm just going to read it to you because I think it's great. Tragedy teaches us that such impropriety is a constitutive feature of human action, not a contingent affliction, meaning this is what happens when we act. The very conditions that make us potent agents are materiality, which we work in a causal world, and our plurality, which makes it possible for our acts to be meaningful, also makes us potent beyond our own control, which is actually what the chorus says at the very beginning.
Oh, really?
In that discourse on how marvelous and strange men are, their sort of abilities. So he says, tragic recognition, we might say, is the acknowledgement of finitude under the weight of a failed effort to become sovereign through forcing others to recognize our identity.
So I want to get this straight, Emily. Part of what this professor is arguing, you resonate with this, is that we want to read Antigone as a tragic hero. She stood her ground. She had kind of like sovereign agency, personal autonomy. She was in combat with Creon. But really, the tragedy here is that her actions had severe ramifications, and it caused a kind of chain of events that led to her death, her boyfriend's death, her boyfriend's mother's death, and the kind of isolation of the king. And maybe, like Oedipus Rex, there is a sort of paint that covers the whole play, not because a gross injustice was done to Antigone, which it was, but because the whole kind of like structure of the world cracked and crushed people because Antigone kind of pushed this all the way to the limit.
Yeah, well, and not just Antigone, but Creon as well.
Creon
right?
also, right.
It's not just Antigone. Like, they're both tragic figures because they both did it.
Yeah.
Might she have gotten farther if she had, as Ismene sort of urged, gone with a more penitent approach? I mean, there's no way to know, right? But that idea that she was going to force through what she thought was right, just as Creon was going to force through what he thought was right, those actions outstrip their own ability to control the outcome, right? Because as soon as you start acting, you are acting in the realm of others acting too, right? Like, the thing that makes us potent also is the thing that hems us in, right?
Yeah. Emily, I've got to tell you, it's a hard reading to accept, not because it's not true. Like, this makes sense. The more I learn about kind of Greek tragedy, the more this reading makes a lot more sense than the earlier one that you had, which is like the one that I have, or the one that I had maybe previous to this discussion. It's a little bit disheartening because I too put a lot of faith and take a lot of pride in the idea that, like, I have agency. I can use my gifts and my voice to bring about change in the world. And it's really disheartening to think that maybe you're not as autonomous as you think you are. Maybe your skills are not as potent as you imagine they might be. It's tough to accept.
Isn't this a little bit of getting older, because you start realizing the truth of this in your own life? Like, I'm not unencumbered. I work and live among others who also act, right? And part of like this growth is discovering the mystery of how that all works together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I appreciated it. It was I think this reading accompanied with The Tragic Imagination by Rowan Williams, because he echoes a lot of these same sentiments, that misrecognition is at the heart of tragedy, and tragedy is always revealing who our hero actually is, right? So this is so true in Lear, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That Lear finally sees once he's blind, right?
Yes.
He does the same exact thing. He thinks he's acting as a sovereign agent, and he is not. right?
Maybe
and that's
this
what's
is
being
part of the
revealed to him.
reason why now we're talking about Lear instead of Antigone. But
Yeah.
what's so heartbreaking about Lear is that his beloved daughter, who does none
I
wrong,
know.
dies at the end, and it feels so unnecessary. But maybe like the kind of lesson here is that Shakespeare, I'll back up. I do think that Shakespeare has a stronger sense of like individual agency than maybe Sophocles does.
Definitely.
Nevertheless, in Lear, maybe Shakespeare is saying, yeah, Cordelia did have to die because what Lear did caused fractious behavior everywhere in society, even to the point that it crushed his own beautiful, beloved daughter.
Yes. His actions outstripped his control, right?
Yes, right.
I think that's a great way of seeing both sides. So what do we learn about love? Well, love and devotion to family is really strong. That love and devotion to family can come in conflict with other devotions that are equally important, which is, I think, what this play reveals, right? Because love of place or the larger community also has a claim on us. And sort of thinking about those competing allegiances, it's why this play is still powerful. It's why this play is still powerful, because this has not changed.
Right.
I mean, I'm thinking about this even in our current political situation, which we don't have to talk about because it's politics, but there's been things about our loves thrown around recently, right? And how do you order them? I might have some disagreements with how some people have said that, but like it's still at play.
Could you, I know you don't want to talk about politics, but are you thinking about something in particular? Why not just say it, Emily?
Okay. J.D. Vance threw out Augustine's ordering of love as a way to justify deportation of illegal immigrants. So, yeah, there we go. It's still.
I did not know about that.
Oh, yeah, he did. So it's still at play currently with how people are considering our differing devotions and our different allegiances. Okay, so here's my hot take.
I'm ready.
Antigone is not a feminist icon.
I thought you were going to say that. I mean, I thought you were going to say that after I heard the last 7 minutes of your reading of Antigone. I was like, oh no, she's not a feminist icon anymore. And her being a feminist icon fits with like my reading, that kind of like individual autonomy or whatever. So it's heartbreaking in that way that you've let down the team, Emily.
No, but I will say, okay, so she's not a feminist icon the way people want to hold her up, but I will say that she is a true feminist icon because she fights for devotion to the family. And I mean, that's one of the things that is like the saddest to me is, and when you read it, is she mourns her own giving up of that which she is trying to protect, right? That's the cruel sadness, is that she recognizes she will never have those children who would do this for her.
Yeah.
Right? Oh.
Yeah.
So in that sense, she's not a feminist icon the way she's held up, but she is in the sense that she fights for what women value, which is...
So it's maybe almost like a deeper feminism.
I think so. I think so.
21st century political and cultural feminism, something like that.
Yeah, I that's what I think she is. And what we love about her, I don't think is wrong to love about her. What we love about her is like that determination. There's still something so beautiful in that. Yeah. Right? Just like in Creon's devotion to the city. Okay, I've got a few closing questions. Lightning.
That was a great hot take, I just want to say. That was a great hot take.
Okay. Well, thanks. Antigone or Lady Anne? Come on.
Antigone.
Yeah, me too. Creon or Richard III?
Oh my goodness. Richard III. As more diabolical. And the only reason why is just because the play is longer. That's the only reason why.
It's true. It's true. We just didn't give Creon long enough.
Yeah.
Antigone or Medea?
Antigone.
Yeah. Thebes or Athens?
Athens.
Ancient Greek playwrights versus Shakespeare.
So it's basically like 4 against 1. I still am gonna say Shakespeare.
I know. We already knew what you were gonna say. I was just doing that because I had to.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Tim, that's all I got.
Emily, I'm still gonna kind of like have to soak in your hot take. It's like tough to accept. You made such a compelling argument, and it's tough to accept. But I think you might be right. If we read, this is part of what we do, is we want to read these works in their own light.
Exactly.
Like, and that's a hard thing to do. According to their terms, it's a hard thing to do because this was written 2,500 years ago. But as much as we can, try to give them their own voice in their own time. And I think you're probably right. And like I've been reading Antigone the wrong way. It's killing me. Hey, thanks to Clark Stefanik, our producer, and to True North, our platform. If you like this show, you might like the Classical You podcast or some of the other podcasts that are on the True North platform. And we also want to thank, as always, Tom Hagerman, who wrote and performed our music. See you next time on Hot Takes on the Classics.